Most chefs don't struggle with their fitness because they don't care. They struggle because their whole approach is built on motivation. And motivation is quite unreliable when your weeks are long, unpredictable, and drain your energy. So when things are calm, motivation is great. It's your best friend. You train, you eat better, you feel back on track. But the moment the work ramps up again, motivation fucks off and the whole thing collapses with it. And after enough of those cycles, something else happens. You stop trusting yourself. A few missed sessions in the gym turns into, see, this really isn't for me. And once that belief sets in, motivation doesn't matter anymore, because every setback becomes proof that this was never going to work out for you in the first place. And that's the real issue. So in this video, I'm going to show you why motivation never works for chefs, and I'll give you a completely different way to build confidence and momentum. One that doesn't rely on motivation, hype, or affirmations. Instead, it's about stacking proof, even on difficult weeks. So maybe you've heard it before, but Alex Hormozy has this line where he says that confidence doesn't come from shouting affirmations in the mirror. It comes from having an undeniable stack of evidence that you are who you say you are. And I'd heard this so many times on different podcasts, in YouTube videos, things like that. And honestly, it always sounded nice, a bit philosophical. Yeah, it makes sense as an idea, but it never really landed for me. It never really clicked as something that you could actively do. And then I heard someone talking about it on a podcast the other week in a way that made it actually practical. Confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you can build up by actively collecting evidence, not just passively hoping that it shows up one day. And once I heard that, I was like, oh, right. That's not just some nice mindset idea that sounds cool and philosophical. That's an actual system that can be used. So here's the example from the podcast, right? This guy, he grew up without much money as a kid. His parents were always trying to avoid spending too much money, always trying to save it and hold on to it as much as they could, always worrying that it's going to run out. And honestly, fair enough, but it leads to this attitude that money is this scarce resource and you have to hold on to it because there isn't enough of it. And now this guy is pretty successful. He's got his online business or whatever. He's got a podcast that he does. He makes a decent bit of money by the sounds of it. And what he was talking about was that he noticed these old habits from his childhood creeping back in. He noticed that scarcity mindset still showing up. The feeling that he didn't have enough, even though he could look at his bank account and see that he has plenty. So he used this Alex Hormozy idea and he made it practical by literally recording evidence that he has more than enough money, more than he'll ever need, more than he'll probably ever be able to spend. And one example he gave was that he was parking his car somewhere, and this is in America. So the valet driver parks it for him, and then as he's leaving, he thinks to himself, oh, well, that guy's just doing his job, I don't need to tip him. And then he caught himself and realized that that thought was that old scarcity mindset creeping back in, that idea that he didn't have enough. So he did the opposite, and he tipped the guy pretty generously, like $20, $30 or whatever. And then he wrote it down as proof of his abundance mindset, proof that he has more than enough. And that's the key. He didn't try to argue with the scarcity mindset that he noticed. He just built up some evidence against it. And this is what I call evidence-based identity. And you can probably see where this is going. This video isn't about money and scarcity mindsets, abundance mindsets, because in the hospitality industry as a whole and in the chef industry, there's this belief that's everywhere. Fitness doesn't work with the lifestyle. And to be fair, I get it completely. I've been there. It usually comes from real experience. Obviously, the constant fatigue, the long shifts, unpredictable rotas, past failed attempts to lose weight or build a routine or whatever. And that belief, it does one of two things. Either it stops you from trying or starting with something altogether, or it sits in the background, and whenever you do try something, it slowly chips away at you over time. You miss a gym session, you miss a couple of days on your diet, work gets busy, and suddenly you think, see, I knew it, I knew this wasn't going to work. That's the villain in this story. It's not laziness, it's not a lack of discipline, it's the old identity. And if you don't change this identity loop, you don't just stall and slow down your progress, but you keep restarting this same cycle over and over again. So here's the shift, right? Instead of trying to fight that belief, you start collecting evidence against it. Once or twice a week, you look for evidence that you are someone who looks after themselves, takes care of their health and fitness, has habits that lead to being in shape. And this is important, right? This evidence doesn't need to be impressive. Small things absolutely count. Just write it down. Because the goal isn't to prove that you're perfect. It's to prove that you're the kind of person who shows up. So here's what actually counts as evidence. Basically anything that aligns with who you want to be. For example, you trained this week. Write it down. You chose a protein-focused meal after work, write it down. You put extra veg in the staff meal, write it down. You went to bed early because you felt wrecked, write it down. You had a protein shake instead of grabbing some crisps or rubbish, write it down. It can even be something small, like you were in the gym and you were doing a set and you pushed for an extra rep or two, when normally you would have just stopped there. Write it down. That totally counts because it's evidence that you are becoming someone who doesn't just fold the second something gets uncomfortable. Again, it's not something impressive, but it is aligned with the type of person you're trying to become. So it counts. So here's how to do this without overcomplicating it. First of all, pick one place to keep it all together. It could be the Notes app on your phone, could be a Google Doc, could be old school pen and paper, literally anything as long as it's consistent and you can collect it all in one place. And then aim for 1 or 2 entries per week. That's it. Because after doing that for 2 months, you'll have about 16 pieces of evidence, 16 bits of proof that you are someone who looks after themselves. And that starts to change your self-belief because your brain can't keep saying, nah, this isn't me, when you've got a literal list telling you the exact opposite. And this is where it gets powerful, right? Because hard weeks are still going to happen. There's no two ways about it. Work is going to test you, life is going to test you, and doubt is going to creep in. You'll hear that voice saying, oh, just put fitness on the back burner for a bit. This isn't you, or you can't do this. But now you've got a cheat sheet, literally a list of proof that you are who you say you are, or that you are becoming who you want to be. So when that old identity, thinking that you can't do this, and that self-doubt starts to creep in a bit, you can look at this undeniable evidence that you've built up that says, no, that's not who I am anymore. I'm becoming someone different. And that's a powerful thing. So the best thing to do is just make this a weekly habit. Pick a regular time on your day off or on a weekend or a Monday reset, whenever feels natural for you or whenever you've got time to do it, and ask one question. Where did I show up this week as the person who I want to be? And try not to repeat the same example every time. If every entry is, I went to the gym this week, yeah, that's still solid, but having variety is going to make that stronger because it proves that you're consistent in multiple different ways, not just one. And that's going to be stronger evidence. So it could be you went to the gym, you had 7 high protein meals this week. You went to bed early to catch up on sleep. You got up early for a workout, or you went to the gym when you didn't feel like going to the gym. They're all fairly similar, but they add variety, and they are things that you can do and then look for in your days and weeks. And ultimately, they're all habits and behaviors of someone who looks after themselves. So it's evidence that you are actually that person. And sitting down once a week to do this, it takes 10, 15 minutes max. If you don't have time for that, for 10 or 15 minutes, then you've got much bigger problems to worry about. But here's the hidden power with doing this. Over time, it turns into a bit of a game because it'll shift from you just sitting down and looking back over the week once a week to the point where you start actively looking for this type of evidence. Opportunities where you can show up as who you want to be just so you can add it to the list. In the moment, you might think, which choice here means that I can add something to my list? It might be some weird situation where you're presented with a choice between having a protein shake and having a slice of cake, as unrealistic as that sounds. Or it could be getting a workout in versus skipping the gym just because you're tired. Doing 10 minutes of push-ups at home versus doing nothing at all. In those moments, you're presented with a choice. Be the person who you want to be, make the choice that someone who is in shape and someone who you want to be would make, or you can make the other choice. But chances are, after doing this for a while, I know which choice you'll make, and it keeps those habits top of mind. Ultimately, it makes progress feel easier because now you're not relying on having motivation, you're just collecting win after win. So the big thing I want you to take away is this. Who you are, it's not built by motivation. It's built by evidence, habits, behaviors, choices. Collect enough evidence and enough proof, your belief is going to change, habits are going to stick better, and the results will naturally follow from that. And over time, you don't try to be in shape. You become someone who has all of the habits that results in being in shape. And at that point, it's just a matter of time before your results and your physique catches up. So the tricky part isn't understanding this. It's choosing right habits to collect evidence from, especially when your weeks are messy and unpredictable, because not all habits carry the same weight. Some are better than others. So in this video here, I break down the 5 habits that are actually keeping you stuck in that old identity and putting the brakes on your progress and how to avoid them. Go watch that one next, and I'll see you there.